Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today. My name is Dustin Kraft, Senior Marketing Specialist here at Qbic Technology, and this is Qbic Solutions Spotlight, where we look at ongoing problems in the workplace and find innovative solutions for those problems. Today's topic is all about work productivity and ways to increase your work productivity while working from home. If at any point during this webinar you have questions or comments, please feel free to message us at info@qbictechnology.com. We'll also include a link to our website, www.qbictechnology.com, in the description below. A little background about Qbic. Qbic is a leading designer and provider of innovative workplace solutions. And we also have clients in the US, Middle East, Asia, Europe, and the UK. And one of our main goals here at Qbic is finding ways to increase and streamline productivity both in and out of the workplace for employees and management alike. We'll also be introducing one of our newest innovations, the Personal Conferencing Panel PC. And the Personal Conferencing Panel PC will help address many of the concerns that we'll be talking about in today's webinar. So without further ado, let's take a look at our agenda. All right, taking a look at our agenda really quickly for today. Our first topic of the day is going to be the physical obstacles that many people encounter while working from home, followed by the mental obstacles, whether that be isolation, scheduling, or finding quiet times. Security and ways to safeguard your devices while at work or working from home, and communication and ways to increase and enhance your communication remotely between you and your coworkers. And finally, we'll be closing with some Q&A. The first thing in physical obstacles is ways to separate our toys from our tools. And what I mean by that is separating your personal devices from your professional and productive work devices. This is kind of an ongoing problem with many remote employees. They report having too many distractions while at home, and one of the number one distractions is either Facebook and other similar social apps. So personal devices are typically terrible for work productivity because people are either one window or one tab away from an immediate distraction. And it's kind of a rabbit hole effect where this one distraction will lead to multiple distractions. So keep your personal devices separate from your work devices. And if you can't do that, then just log out of Facebook, YouTube, and Netflix during work if you're using a personal device. Don't give yourself that outlet, that escape, so that you can have a better way to focus on your work. If you want to make it easy on yourself, the Personal Panel Conferencing PC automatically removes these distractions by default. So you don't have to worry about getting distracted and not being able to finish your tasks on time. The Personal Panel Conferencing PC is a dedicated device solely for immediate conferencing. So while you're talking to your coworkers and your colleagues, you're not minimizing windows and speaking with friends on the side and looking up your next favorite show on Netflix. So it helps you focus and it removes those distractions that get in the way. Okay, our second physical obstacle that we encounter is our workspace. Where can we work in our home? Most of us don't have access to a study or an office, so it's hard to find that productive workspace. Kitchens and bedrooms are often too distracting for work because we associate them with snacking or being lazy or taking naps. So you want to stay away from those environments, and also those common areas where maybe your kids are playing games or watching TV also won't be the most productive for work. So what do? You need to seek less traditional solutions. So if you have a garage, a basement, or an attic, utilize those places. Even if they seem cold and dark, you can create a warmer environment by throwing in some plants and some warm lighting. You want to make sure that you have a workspace that is 100% dedicated to work, because if it's being used as a multi-purpose space, it's constantly going to be interrupted by different projects or people setting it up for different purposes. So don't make a dining room table your workspace. It will just be a constant distraction. You want to have something that you can mark as your own and make sure to create an identity for this workspace, that this is only used for productive work. That's why the Personal Panel Conferencing PC can help create that identity for your remote desk by putting a permanent fixture there that reminds you and reminds your friends and family that this is a space that is dedicated for work. It creates a zone where you will make and receive calls and where you can conduct business. And so that identity is very important and it breaks and severs that connection between this is a multi-purpose space and this is a permanent workspace. Okay, so now we're moving on to our next category, mental obstacles. One of our first mental obstacle that we have when working from home, even after we start using the right devices and even after we found the perfect location to work from, scheduling can often result in burnout, which is we don't schedule properly. We try to attend to all the work that comes our way, even though different people are working in different time zones on different schedules, and we try and address all this work throughout the day, and we can't do it. So we often suffer from burnout. And it also is the reason why remote employees work longer hours on average, is because they try and make up for this time that they have staying home to complete more work. And it can hurt their work-life balance because they're not tending to the things that they should. Maybe they have pets, maybe they have family, maybe they have things that need to be done around the house, and they're not tending to those because they're constantly addressing the work that is coming their way at different hours during the day. So it's really important that employees can create a schedule that works for them, considering all the obstacles that are around them. Okay, so in the morning, if kids need help with their schoolwork from home, take time, maybe an hour out of your schedule to do that. And when you come back to your schedule, you'll feel a little bit more refreshed, your head will be a little bit more clear, you won't have that distraction. Also, alert your coworkers of the times that you will be checking in and checking out of work. That way they know that there's this window which they can reach you, and that time the window closes. And finally, learn to completely check out. Learn to remove yourself from your work. Even if you have to close your device, even if you have to log out of your email, just find a way to completely sever that connection and make it so it's unavailable unless it's truly necessary. The personal panel conferencing PC can help you stick to that schedule. You won't hear any incoming dings from emails, you won't hear any distracting messages. It helps you stick to your healthy schedule, and it won't disrupt your free time. If you have an incoming message, you can have it come up on your device instead of your computer, so you don't go through, like we were talking about before, that rabbit hole of constantly responding to messages or just being distracted from other upcoming issues. And so it helps you clear your mind and stick to that more healthy schedule. Next we have noise. So there's a lot of noise you'll be experiencing from home, whether that's from the neighbors, whether that's from your pets, whether that's from your kids. It can be a whole different ball game when you're working from home. And many of these distractions will often be completely out of your control. And if you are too stuck addressing these problems, maybe you're putting in headphones to kind of block out the additional noise, then you might miss things like important calls or meetings. So learn to block out the sounds that you can control. If you have windows that are open and somebody's mowing their lawn, close the window, of course. If your kid's in the next room, close the door. If you truly need it, use your headphones to block out the additional sounds, and establish quiet times with your family to have that window where you can work in peace. Hopefully your kids' classes from school will coincide with your work time. So when your kids are working, they should also be quiet, which will help you clear your mind when you're working. The personal panel conferencing PC has these front and side LEDs so that even during these quiet times, you won't have these loud incoming messages, you won't have these distracting sounds coming up. And if you have your headphones in and if you're blocking out other sounds, you can still see that you have a notification for an incoming meeting. It also will signal to your kids that it's time to be quiet and time to remain and time to respect daddy or mommy while they're on a call. Okay, so moving on to the topic of isolation. Isolation is a very real issue that people are encountering when transitioning from the office to working from home. It can also be a major killer of productivity if you have that fear of missing out or feel that you're not part of the group anymore because you're not always at the office and not with your team members. And this fear of missing out, this fear of isolation, can often lead to unhealthy habits, both mentally and physically, because you don't feel like you're included in the group anymore. So the major solution for this is just connect with your coworkers and colleagues more often through calling. Check in on ongoing tasks or projects and just see how they're doing. It gives them reassurance that you're there if they need to connect with you. It gives you a feeling of assurance that all the tasks are still on schedule and everything's being done the way it should be. Also, it's important to have more frequent meetings, even if it's social meetings, so everybody still feels like they're working as a collective. They're working in tandem. You can host these brainstorming groups, brainstorming sessions, or happy hours to give a feeling of community, which will help everybody's sanity. So what can Qbic do? Qbic makes it easier to connect with colleagues through the personal conferencing panel PC. You're always one step away from starting a conference call or connecting with a colleague. It also helps the whole socializing aspect, because even when you're doing your work, you can have your personal conferencing panel PC off to the side and have a conversation with a colleague. Even if it's just small talk, it'll feel more like you're in the office environment and give you that feeling of being included in the group. Okay, so now moving on to the issue of security when working from home. Obviously, when we're working from not a centralized point, the devices that we use become more vulnerable to hacking into data breaches. So 99% of accounts get hacked due to single-factor authentication, meaning that if we are using a work PC or work laptop, then it's easy for hackers to get into our information if we only have one barrier between our information and a hacker. This hacking accounts for about half of all data breaches. So all the data that these hackers have access to is because of very poor security on our part, and these hackers being able to breach that security extremely easily. Finally, going to places like coffee shops and where they have these open networks that are unsecured is almost like asking to be hacked because it's so easy. So use a separate device when you're having meetings or when you're talking with someone else, and don't allow that entry point for hackers. If you know you have sensitive information on your computer, don't allow yourself to be vulnerable, and keep your communication devices and your devices that hold your sensitive data separate. Also be sure to double down on security and use that two-factor authentication to avoid being hacked as easily. So Qbic's personal panel conferencing PC acts as a barrier for your sensitive information and protects your laptop, your personal devices from being hacked. It also helps you conduct conference calls and access your data simultaneously without being compromised. So you don't have to open and close windows, so you can still talk to your colleagues while conducting your work and safeguarding your information. Communication. Now, I'm sure all of you have experienced this at least once before. Either you're in the middle of a call or you're watching somebody on a call and you can tell the quality is dying, or your viewers are losing interest, or the enthusiasm of the group is just fading away. And a lot of times this is due to poor hardware. So either your hardware is not optimized for conferences, or maybe the camera quality is quite low, or maybe the speaker quality is bad. But one of these factors will definitely affect the overall immersive experience that you're having during a conference call. And it will result in your audience losing focus, and your meetings will become much less memorable as a result of this. So what can we do? You can use a dedicated device for conferencing that has a proper camera, microphone, and speaker. And be sure to engage your audience as opposed to speaking to your audience. You can ask questions, you can seek input, but it will also drive up the overall enthusiasm and engagement of the listeners. So you really want a dedicated device that will increase that overall feeling of immersion that you know has the features that you need to generate a positive experience. And so the personal conferencing panel PC helps to increase that overall engagement because it gives you a single point of focus that you can look at. It doesn't give you any of those distractions of additional media, no extra tabs to exit out of. It has an immersive 10-inch display with an 8-megapixel camera to make sure that you're always in focus. And lastly, it has a touchscreen for quick navigation in case you want to shift, change settings in your Zoom meetings. So the personal conferencing panel PC is an extremely useful tool when it comes to conferencing, when it comes to taking that extra step to ensure that your work from home experience is better overall and a little bit more immersive and inviting than if you were to use a traditional laptop. Okay, so at this point we're going to be moving on to some Q&A. So stick with us and we're going to be answering some questions. Thank you. So on the personal panel conferencing PC, there's two USB 2.0 ports. There's a micro SD card slot. There is an audio jack and a DC power supply. No, the personal panel conferencing PC, as you can see, is already pre-installed with Zoom software, so users have no need to install any additional conferencing software. Additional applications can be downloaded on the personal panel conferencing PC as it runs off of Android software, so users can utilize the Android store to download additional applications. All right, thank you, and thank you for joining us today. If you happen to have any additional questions, please feel free to message us at info@qbictechnology.com, and we'll be happy to get back to you. Thank you. Have a great day.